Hi, this is Ed Hannan at the 2012 SMPS Build Business Conference in San Francisco, and today I'm here with Marilyn Mendell, president of WinSpin CIC Incorporated out of Washington, D.C. Marilyn, as many of you attendees of Build Business know, is a perennial winner, it seems, of MCA Awards, and one of the categories that seems to pop up repeatedly in her award winners are for the identity categories, corporate identity and things like that. So what we're going to talk about today are some of the characteristics that she finds make for a successful corporate identity and or identity campaign. Marilyn, just if you could start off, just tell us some of the overall themes that you maybe need to go into a successful identity.
Ed, thank you very much for having me. I think that one of the things that I find is consistency. I like to make sure that my clients have the same colors that they use. If it's red, gray, black, and white, that remains the main theme color for everything. And it's so easy for graphic designers or architects or engineers to introduce lime green or pink or something like that, and it just has to be monitored. There has to be an identity Nazi almost. And that goes for signatures, anything, so that when you come to applying for awards, the identity colors and fonts and everything really do match everything that you do.
You mentioned that some sort of like green versus lime green. How is it that firms either allow for those subtleties, the variances to sort of creep in, or how does that sort of happen? That sort of where you get those little discrepancies and things like that.
I think it happens from the marketing department not having a brand standard set up, and it doesn't have to be fancy. But it does have to be something where you have all of your templates set up in your Word documents. I laminate some of them in some companies so that they're available to everybody. Make sure that the IT people in the company are monitoring people's email addresses. It's slow. If they go back to past documents, then they pick those up. If they're doing boards, they pick up old boards. So you're constantly having to come back. I like to include people in the firm. So if I have marketing meetings in the firms, I like to bring in the project managers, the associates, and invite them to marketing meetings so that they get involved. They develop a camaraderie with the marketing department rather than an antagonistic way of dealing with the marketing department. That way, they're more inclined to take on that ownership, and then when they have that ownership, then they're more inclined to keep the brand.
Excellent. And one of the things you and I talked about a little earlier was sort of the difference between a firm that presents itself seriously but has maybe a fun identity. How does that sort of work both ways in terms of fun identities versus serious firms and fun firms versus serious identities?
Right.
And how do you sort of rectify that variance?
Whenever I go into a firm, I always interview everybody in the firm before I do a brand reimage.
Sure.
And what I find generally is if somebody says we want to be known for the most serious firm, but they goof off and they have great parties and it's very difficult to change a culture to be something other than what it really is. And every single company has a different, almost like a fingerprint, a different identity. So the first thing you have to do is figure out what your identity is in your firm. And then when you figure that out, you have to match it consistently with how you're presenting yourself. Some of my clients have pure, clean, double embossed logo that everything is just elegant white and beautiful gray. And another firm is wild and crazy. The Phipps Botanic Gardens in Pittsburgh is green, and it's just a totally different. So it has to match.
And obviously you can't change the people, so it's easier to change the sort of the look and the feel. In other words, if you have a sort of a company culture or a firm culture that is one way, you're not going to change that culture, so it's easier to change, obviously, the identity and the look and feel of the firm.
There's two sides to that.
Okay.
I do change management, and I do believe that you can change cultures, and cultures that are in crisis can be changed and moved. However, if you have a culture, I'll use my client Hickok Cole, that's absolutely marvelous. if you've got a culture like theirs where it is a fun culture, everything, they're very collaborative, extremely transparent, a well-oiled machine, then it's very easy to make sure that whatever they do matches what they have, because it's a clean, great organization, it's fun, it's alive, it's a well, so then that's easy.
Excellent, excellent. Is there anything else we should talk about with this topic of identity, branding, and sort of the logo and look and feel of a firm?
I think that I always say less is more.
Yep.
And I go down and I look at the boards that everybody has submitted, the winning awards, and they're all marvelous. And it's also very clear which ones have too much information. And even at the sessions here, I was listening to Diana Mosher from one of the magazines speaking, and Diana made a point, and so did ENR, that just send us press releases with bullet points. We can't read all the text. It's just too much, too text heavy. I think that goes for award submissions. Get to the meat, tell the real story, the real facts, and you have to start that early in the process. I'll give you an example. A lot of times people don't start soon enough for awards. I'm calling right now for Art Night for Hickok Cole for sponsors, and I just called up a sponsor and they said, oh, well, we're moving to a new space. And I said, really? Can we do that space for you? And they said, well, sure, we can talk. And I went right back to the graphic designers at Hickok Cole and I said, put that down, because when we apply for an award, and if we really do get that job, that is going to be direct ROI
from that call. Yep.
And tracking those things is something that a lot of people just don't do.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Oh, it's wonderful. Thank you so much. And I like winning the awards at SMPS, but it's a great group of people. Thank you for everything.
You're welcome.